Most people believe aging happens because time moves forward. But biologically, that is not the full truth. Aging accelerates when the body stops receiving the signals that tell it to repair, adapt, and stay alive. And here is the unsettling part. Those signals are often lost not through disease, but through small, silent choices made every day. You can look fine on the outside while the body is quietly aging faster on the inside. The human body is not a machine that simply wears out. It is a living system that constantly listens, interprets, and responds. When movement disappears, the body assumes it is no longer needed. When nutrition becomes shallow, cells shift from repair to survival. When sleep fragments, the brain loses its nightly chance to cleanse and reset. None of these failures arrive with warning alarms. They arrive gently, almost politely. What makes this dangerous is not age itself, but neglect disguised as normal life. Many seniors are not getting older, they are getting quieter at the cellular level. And silence, in biology, is often interpreted as decline. The most powerful truth is this: aging is not just something that happens to you. It is something your body is constantly negotiating. And when you change the signals you send, the body listens. One of the most misunderstood ideas about aging is the belief that slowing down protects the body. Many seniors begin to associate rest with safety and movement with risk. Over time, chairs become more familiar than walking paths, and stillness is mistaken for wisdom. But from a biological perspective, the human body interprets prolonged inactivity very differently. It does not see it as rest. It sees it as a signal that demand has ended. And when demand ends, the body begins to withdraw its investment. Muscles exist only because they are used. When they are not challenged, even gently, the nervous system reduces the signals that keep them strong. Muscle fibers shrink, coordination dulls, and balance becomes uncertain. This is not because the body is failing, but because it is conserving energy. The same principle applies to bones. Bone tissue constantly remodels itself based on pressure and load. When walking, standing, and light resistance decrease, bones quietly lose density. The process is gradual, almost invisible, until a simple stumble becomes a serious injury. What makes inactivity so dangerous is its ripple effect. Reduced movement slows circulation, meaning less oxygen and fewer nutrients reach tissues. Joints receive less lubrication, becoming stiff and painful, which further discourages movement. The heart and muscle itself adapts to a lower workload by reducing efficiency. Even the brain responds. Movement stimulates regions responsible for memory, coordination, and mood. When motion fades, cognitive sharpness often follows. The tragedy is that the body does not require intense exercise to stay young at the cellular level. It requires consistency and intention. The body evolved through millions of years of walking, lifting, reaching, and adjusting to gravity. Simple actions, standing up repeatedly from a chair, walking after meals, stretching upon waking, send powerful signals of relevance to muscles and nerves. These signals tell the body, you are still needed. Stay prepared. Fear plays a quiet role here. Many seniors avoid movement because they fear falling, pain, or injury. Ironically, avoiding movement increases the very risks they fear. Balance improves only when challenged. Strength returns only when requested. The body learns safety through exposure, not avoidance. Gentle, controlled movement retrains the nervous system to trust the body again. Movement also regulates internal chemistry. Physical activity improves insulin sensitivity, helping control blood sugar. It reduces chronic inflammation, a major driver of accelerated aging. It stimulates the release of growth factors that support tissue repair and brain health. These effects are not dramatic or immediate, but they accumulate silently, day after day, shaping how the body ages. Perhaps most importantly, movement preserves dignity. When seniors remain mobile, they maintain independence, confidence, and connection to the world around them. Movement is not just mechanical, it is emotional and psychological. Walking outside exposes the senses to light, sound, and social presence. These experiences anchor a person in life, reducing isolation and apathy. The correction, then, is not to chase youth, but to restore dialogue between the body and its environment. Each step, stretch, and shift in posture is a conversation that says life is still active here. The body does not demand perfection. It responds generously to effort, no matter how small, as long as it is repeated. In this quiet exchange between motion and biology, aging slows not because time stops, but because the body is reminded how to participate in it. One of the quietest yet most damaging mistakes seniors make is believing that eating less automatically means aging well. Appetite changes with age, taste dulls, and meals often become smaller and simpler. On the surface, this seems harmless, even sensible. But beneath that simplicity, a serious biological mismatch begins to form. The body's need for nutrients does not retire with age. In many ways it increases. Cells still break down, tissues still require repair, and the immune system still needs raw materials to function. When nutrition thins out, the body does not protest loudly, it adapts, and that adaptation accelerates aging. The body is a system of constant turnover. Proteins are broken down and rebuilt every day. Enzymes, hormones, immune cells, and muscle fibers all depend on adequate building blocks. When protein intake drops too low, the body makes difficult choices. It preserves vital organs and sacrifices muscle. This loss happens gradually, often unnoticed, until strength fades, posture changes, and fatigue becomes a daily companion. This is not inevitable aging. It is silent muscle starvation. Micronutrients play an equally important role. Vitamins and minerals act as switches and messengers inside the body. They guide energy production, nerve signaling, bone maintenance, and immune defense. When meals become repetitive or heavily processed, these nutrients quietly disappear. The result is slower wound healing, increased susceptibility to infections, brittle bones, and cognitive fog. None of these appear suddenly. They emerge slowly, making them easy to dismiss as just getting older. Hydration is another overlooked factor. Seniors often drink less water due to reduced thirst signals or fear of frequent urination. Yet even mild dehydration thickens the blood, strains the kidneys, and reduces circulation to the brain. It can worsen joint pain, increase constipation, and impair concentration. The brain is particularly sensitive to hydration levels, and what feels like mental slowing may simply be a body operating without enough fluid to support electrical signaling. There is also a psychological component to undernourishment. Eating alone, skipping meals, or treating food as a chore rather than nourishment reduces both intake and enjoyment. The digestive system responds to stress and disengagement by reducing efficiency. When eating becomes rushed or mindless, nutrient absorption suffers. Digestion is not just chemical, it is neurological and emotional. Calm, regular meals send signals of safety that improve how the body processes nutrients. The correction does not lie in eating more, but in eating with intention. Protein spread evenly across meals supports muscle maintenance far better than a single large serving. Whole foods rich in fiber, healthy fats, and micronutrients provide slow, steady energy rather than sharp spikes and crashes. Color on the plate often reflects diversities in nutrients, each color representing different protective compounds that reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. Aging bodies are not fragile machines that must be starved to survive. They are adaptive systems that thrive when supported properly. Food is not merely fuel, it is information. Every meal tells the body whether resources are abundant enough to invest in repair or scarce enough to shift into conservation mode. When the message repeatedly signals scarcity, the body responds by aging faster. Proper nourishment restores trust between the body and its environment. Strength returns, not because time is reversed, but because the biological signals for repair are restored. When seniors eat to support their physiology rather than just their appetite, the body responds with resilience, stability, and a quieter, steadier aging process that unfolds not as decline, but as continued adaptation and presence. Sleep is often treated as a passive state, something that happens when the day is over and the body has nothing left to do. For many seniors, broken sleep becomes so common that it is accepted as normal, even unavoidable. Waking frequently at night, rising too early, or sleeping lightly is often dismissed as part of aging. Yet from a biological standpoint, sleep is not a luxury that fades with age. It is an active, highly organized process that becomes more important as the body grows older. When sleep quality declines, aging quietly accelerates. During deep sleep, the body enters its most efficient repair mode. Tissues rebuild, immune cells recalibrate, and hormones essential for growth and recovery are released. The brain, meanwhile, performs a vital cleansing function, clearing metabolic waste that accumulates during waking hours. When sleep is fragmented or shortened, this process remains incomplete. Waste lingers, inflammation rises, and cognitive clarity slowly erodes. Over time, this contributes to memory problems, slower reaction times, and increased risk of neurodegenerative changes. Poor sleep also disrupts hormonal balance. Sleep regulates cortisol, insulin, melatonin, and growth-related hormones. When sleep is irregular, cortisol remains elevated, keeping the body in a low-grade stress state. Blood sugar regulation becomes impaired, increasing the risk of metabolic disorders. Appetite signals become confused, often leading to cravings for quick energy rather than nourishing food. These changes are subtle, but they compound daily, shaping the internal environment in which aging occurs. The heart and blood vessels are also deeply affected by sleep quality. During restful sleep, blood pressure lowers and the cardiovascular system recovers from daily strain. Without sufficient deep sleep, this recovery period shortens. Over time, blood vessels stiffen, inflammation increases, and cardiovascular risk rises. Again, this happens quietly, without dramatic symptoms, until the cumulative damage becomes clinically visible. One of the challenges seniors face is that sleep is highly sensitive to routine and environment. Reduced daytime activity, limited exposure to natural light, irregular meal times, and increased evening screen exposure all confuse the body's internal clock. The brain relies on predictable cues to know when to initiate sleep. When those cues are inconsistent, sleep becomes shallow and easily disrupted. Napping excessively during the day further blurs the boundary between rest and wakefulness, making nighttime sleep even more elusive. This solution does not begin with medication, but with respect for the biology of sleep. Morning light exposure helps reset circadian rhythms, signaling the brain that the day has begun. Gentle daytime movement increases sleep pressure, making deep rest more achievable at night. Consistent sleep and wake times teach the nervous system predictability. In the evening, reducing stimulation allows melatonin to rise naturally, preparing the body for rest. Sleep is also influenced by the mind. Worry, loneliness, and unresolved stress often surface at night when distractions fade. This mental activation keeps the nervous system alert, preventing the descent into deep sleep. Practices that calm the mind, slow breathing, reflection, prayer, or quiet reading signal safety to the brain. When the brain feels safe, sleep deepens. Perhaps the most important shift is recognizing that poor sleep is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It is a physiological signal asking for adjustment. When seniors prioritize sleep as a foundational pillar of health, other systems begin to stabilize. Energy improves, mood lifts, pain sensitivity decreases, and cognitive function sharpens. Sleep is the body's nightly investment in tomorrow. When that investment is consistently interrupted, aging speeds forward. When sleep is protected and restored, the body regains its rhythm, and aging slows not through force, but through the quiet efficiency of biological repair working as it was designed to do. Chronic stress is often imagined as something dramatic and visible, yet in reality it is usually quiet, persistent, and internal. For many seniors, life may appear calmer on the surface, but the nervous system tells a different story. Worries about health, finances, usefulness, or loneliness can linger beneath daily routines, keeping the body in a subtle state of alert. This low-grade stress rarely feels urgent, which is why it is so easily ignored. But biologically, the body does not distinguish between loud stress and silent stress. It responds to both in the same way, by releasing hormones designed for short-term survival, not long-term living. When stress becomes chronic, cortisol remains elevated beyond its useful window. In small doses, cortisol helps mobilize energy and sharpen focus. In constant doses, it begins to erode the body from the inside. Blood sugar rises, encouraging fat storage and insulin resistance. Muscle tissue breaks down more readily, while repair slows. The immune system becomes less precise, increasing inflammation while reducing effective defense. Over time, this internal environment accelerates aging at the cellular level. The cardiovascular system is particularly sensitive to prolonged stress. Elevated stress hormones tighten blood vessels and increase heart rate, even during rest. This persistent tension damages vessel walls and reduces their elasticity. What begins as emotional strain quietly becomes physical wear, increasing the risk of hypertension and heart disease. The individual may feel calm, yet the body remains braced, as if danger has not fully passed. The brain also pays a price. Chronic stress shrinks areas involved in memory and learning while overstimulating regions responsible for fear and vigilance. This imbalance affects concentration, emotional regulation, and sleep. Many seniors attribute mental fog or forgetfulness to age, unaware that the nervous system has been operating in survival mode for too long. The brain, like the body, ages faster when it is not allowed to rest into safety. Loneliness plays a powerful role in this process. Human beings are biologically wired for connection. Social interaction signals safety to the nervous system, lowering stress responses and supporting emotional resilience. When connection fades, the body interprets isolation as vulnerability. Stress hormones rise not because of danger, but because support feels absent. This is why social isolation has been shown to impact health as strongly as many physical risk factors. The correction begins with understanding that calm is not a luxury or personality trait. It is a physiological state that must be practiced. Slow, deliberate breathing activates pathways that counteract stress hormones. Time in natural environments lowers nervous system arousal, even without conscious effort. Meaningful conversation and shared experiences remind the brain that it is not alone. These interventions may seem simple, yet they work because they align with how the human nervous system evolved. Mental habits also shape stress biology. Rumination keeps the stress response active long after a problem has passed. Gentle redirection of attention, reflection, or spiritual practices help the mind release its grip on constant anticipation. When the mind softens, the body follows. Reducing chronic stress does not mean eliminating problems or emotions. It means teaching the body that it is safe enough to repair rather than defend. When the nervous system shifts out of constant vigilance, inflammation lowers, sleep improves, and healing accelerates. Aging slows, not because life becomes effortless, but because the body is no longer burning resources in a quiet, endless state of alarm. One of the most overlooked forces in aging is not physical decline, but the gradual withdrawal from purpose, curiosity, and mental engagement. Many seniors unknowingly begin to live on mental autopilot, repeating familiar routines while avoiding challenge. This shift often feels natural, even deserved, after years of responsibility. Yet the brain does not interpret disengagement as rest, it interprets it as irrelevance. And when the brain senses that it is no longer needed, it begins to reorganize itself toward efficiency rather than growth. The human brain is remarkably adaptable throughout life. Neural connections strengthen when they are used and weaken when they are neglected. Learning, problem-solving, teaching, and creating stimulate the formation of new pathways and reinforce existing ones. When these stimuli fade, the brain reduces its metabolic investment. Processing speed slows, memory retrieval weakens, and attention narrows. These changes are often attributed to aging, but they are deeply influenced by how the mind is used. Purpose acts as a powerful biological signal. When a person feels needed, useful, or curious, the brain releases neurotransmitters that support motivation, focus, and emotional balance. These chemicals also influence the immune system and cardiovascular health. Purpose is not an abstract idea, it is a physiological state. When purpose diminishes, so does the internal chemistry that supports resilience. Curiosity plays a similar role. Engaging with new ideas, skills, or perspectives challenges the brain to adapt. This adaptation keeps neural circuits flexible and responsive. Even small acts, such as learning a new recipe, reading unfamiliar material, or engaging in thoughtful discussion, stimulate cognitive networks. The brain thrives not on complexity, but on novelty paired with meaning. When life becomes predictable and mentally passive, the brain conserves energy by reducing activity in areas that are no longer challenged. Social contribution further reinforces this process. Teaching, mentoring, advising, or simply being present for others reinforces identity and self-worth. These interactions stimulate emotional and cognitive centers simultaneously, creating a rich environment for brain health. Isolation, by contrast, reduces cognitive load and emotional feedback, accelerating mental decline. The brain ages faster when it operates in isolation because it lacks the signals that justify continued investment. There is also a profound emotional dimension to disengagement. When seniors stop imagining the future, time collapses inward, days blend together, and motivation fades. The nervous system responds to this narrowing by reducing energy output. Fatigue increases not because the body is weak, but because it no longer sees a reason to mobilize resources. Purpose gives the body direction, and direction gives energy. The correction does not require grand goals or constant productivity. It requires alignment between daily life and a sense of meaning. This might come through spiritual growth, creative expression, service, or intellectual exploration. What matters is not the scale of the activity, but its significance to the individual. When the brain perceives meaning, it engages fully. The body follows the brain's expectations. When the mind anticipates relevance, the body supports it with better coordination, endurance, and resilience. This connection explains why mentally engaged seniors often appear physically younger than their peers. Their biology is responding to signals of ongoing participation in life. Aging slows when curiosity remains alive and purpose remains active. Not because time is reversed, but because the brain continues to signal that growth is still expected. In this quiet dialogue between meaning and biology, the later years of life become not a retreat from engagement, but a deeper, more intentional form of presence in the world.